Welcome to the Influencer's Journey Show. And our topic today is how to defy your dream stealers. How to defy your dream stealers. And this is such a great question because no matter what you do, I believe when you step out on your own, and while everybody's zigging, you zag, um, the dream stealers are inevitable. So the first thing we
Mm.
want to dive into is how not to take an unsupportive response personally.
Hmm.
How
Yeah.
not to take an unsupportive response personally. What are your thoughts?
So I have another one, another story about this one. I remember being at an event, and at this event, I was talking or I shared my half and half. So for our super achievers who've been, following me, many of you know what I mean by half and half. But for those of you don't, half and half for me is I spend half of the year on the continental United States and then the other half of the year in the Virgin Islands. And I remember having that conversation. We were actually sitting in a group, and almost everyone in the group were intrigued. People started to lean in. I was just like, that's a very interesting concept that you would decide to spend, half of the year one place and the other half another place. And then all of a sudden, this gentleman said to me, well, that's a stupid idea. And I was like, what? And I felt like the pang in the pit of my stomach, right? And then he just went in on me and he started to talk about why it didn't make sense, the expense, who would want to do that, all of this negative stuff. I had to take a deep breath. I kid you not. I had to take a deep breath, and it came to me like not everyone is really going to get the full picture of what it is that you're doing, and not everyone is going to understand. As those seeds of doubt crept up, what I reminded myself was that I was doing it already. I created the situation for me to be able to go back and forth. So even though at that time I wasn't fully living all the way in the vision of the half and half, I still was touching pieces
Mm.
of it. And I had to remind myself in that moment that it's possibility, and to just keep seeing, the possibility. And I quickly got up from where we were sitting and exited stage left.
I know for me, when even if you go back to the situation where I shared with a close friend, and this was someone I spent a lot of time with, and they told me I was nuts. And I remember at first, yeah, absolutely, pit in my stomach and just a hurt because I think we believe that our friends are going to support us, our friends are going to encourage us, our friends are going to cheer us on.
Yeah.
And what I realized in that moment was one was she was well intended,
Hmm.
although it hurt.
Yeah.
And 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 the thing that I got was that this was my vision.
Yeah.
This was my idea. It was gifted to me. And this is really how I look at it. It was gifted to me. So God dropped it in, whoever you believe in, a higher power dropped it into me. And I was like, ooh, this is for me. And it's for me. It's not for everybody. And I realized that when I was sharing it with other people, I was actually looking for validation.
Mm.
And when I
That's
didn't get the validation, it fed a doubt in me
hmm
and that was where the hurt was coming from. It fed my own insecurities, and
right.
that was where the doubt was coming from. Once I got that, I reminded myself that this is for me. And people don't have to see it.
Yeah.
They don't have to agree with it. They don't have to even think it's amazing. And I think one of the big things as influencers who step out, the first step is unshakable belief.
Mm-hmm.
And do I have unshakable belief in my idea, or am I willing to build my unshakable belief? And I think it's not looking outside for validation that the idea is good, is to look inside and go, do I really believe in this? So that was my first aha. So although it was difficult and it happened time and time again, it was such a gift because it had me go within and really ask myself some tough questions.
Yeah. And I love that. And just listening, it kind of reminds me of my journey as well. And so when I remember when I started talking about the half and half was, to me, like a really neat idea. Like, who wouldn't want to, spend
Mhm.
half of the year, escape the winter months in the sunny isles, right? But I remember when it really became real for me, and
Mhm.
the half and half meant something when the why changed for the half and half. I remember the first time that I actually exceeded the 6 months, and I stayed here for 8 months, and it was because of a family matter. And I was like, oh my gosh, like you said, the gift is for you.
Mhm.
Then it hit me. It's like, oh my gosh, God was just setting me up, on this train of thought, because he knew that this would be something that would be coming up in my life.
Yeah.
And looking at the importance of family and how I view family, how would I be able to be there and support my family? And so the half and half at that moment took on a totally different moment. I mean, a totally different meaning. And it's that thing where, like, yes, this is for me, and no longer, like you said, do I feel that doubt when people sometimes question it, like, oh, what do you mean by that? That's really weird. What, and all the things that they say, I know what it means, to me to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it brings us to our next question is, how do you stay the course when you feel alone and,
Mm,
and doubtful?
yeah.
And how many times on the journey has that happened? Like I tell people I have to re-enroll myself in my own vision
Mm,
consistently and persistently.
yeah.
And I know for me, the gift of the naysayers, the gift of the people who don't believe, who don't see, was that they actually pushed me to decide,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And the question I had to ask myself, am I going to do this because it's popular and everybody's like, woohoo, Suzanne,
Right.
great idea? Or am I going to do this because I believe in it?
Yeah.
So those naysayers and unsupportive people, which back then was everybody except for one or two,
Yeah.
um, that was the thing, it really had me decide. I think the other thing that it really had me begin to do is spend time with myself.
Mm,
And what I mean by that, it wasn't that I was going to isolate myself, because my next point is not about isolation. It wasn't that I was going to isolate myself. However, it had me, rather than look outside for confirmation, for this is the right thing, you're right on track. It was actually spending time with myself, asking myself difficult questions, asking myself, what do I need? Who do I need to become? How am I required to grow? All those things. And that began the beginning of building my belief. So one of the things, it was, who was I required to become? That's my favorite question. And the second thing was, what did I need? What was I required to learn? And it was just grasping
yeah.
those things and diving and putting myself into that. With that came, where was I required to hang out?
Mm.
And what I began to realize was I had to find like-minded people. And
Yeah.
that was when my light bulb went off, was that when I found like-minded people, I found the people that were not from where I was coming from.
Right.
And I think this is really key for people to get, but I found the people who represented where I was going. And
Yeah.
what that taught me was the people who were saying no reflected where I was. And
Mhm.
that's why they were saying, no, this is crazy, don't do it.
Yeah.
The people who reflected where I was going, once I found them, they were like, oh my gosh, you're just get starting. There's all this ahead of you. And then I was just like this little fish in this big pond. And I was like, oh, I'm just getting started. Like there's all that. And it was such a different perspective. And what it represented, the reason I was getting my nose was I had grown.
Yeah.
I had grown out of the fishbowl that I'd been living in. And I wanted a bigger pond, a bigger fishbowl, a different fishbowl. And when I was ready to take the leap of faith, they were like, where are you going? Oh no, this is not.
Stay over here with us. It's so comfortable over here. What are you doing?
And the last thing I'll say is that, people may want to write this down. I was required to decide that it was okay to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the time.
Yeah.
It was okay to be uncomfortable. And being uncomfortable didn't mean something was wrong. It meant that I was growing.
Yeah.
I was learning, I was expanding. Because part of the reason we go to people for validation is we're feeling the discomfort.
Yeah.
And we want we want to say what people want. We want someone to say, oh no, come back in here.
Yeah.
Right? No, don't live in that discomfort. Accept that you're going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, what comes up, and that's such a great share. And what comes up for me is, the hunger that you have to have behind of it, that hunger and that drive. And so one of the things that I learned very quickly on the journey is to be able to take an initiative. So a lot of times, people, might have a dream, or you thinking that this is what you want, but how bad do you really want it? Like, that's the question that's on the table. What are you willing to do to go after it, and not wait for others to come and give you and say, here, this is what you should do, this is what I think you should be doing. But you take up that charge on your own and move forward. And for me, I always tell people, I think the only thing that I committed to doing on this journey is figuring it out. Okay, so is always what's the next thing that I need to learn how to do? What's the next step forward that's going to bring me closer, to the vision, and just keep moving. And it's a staying in action. So a lot of times, when we take a look at it, there's so many challenges that occur. You get stumbling blocks, you get roadblocks, you get the naysayers, things are hard. Let's just be honest. We have days where we don't feel like doing it. But the thing is, you just can't quit. You just have to keep moving and staying in action, and just looking at everything as an opportunity for you to learn and grow and move on to your next level.
I love it. The staying in action brought a visual for me that I'd like to share with everyone. When we were at the retreat in Panama, we did, as everybody knows, we did the zip lining.
The zip line experience, the infamous zip line experience.
Yeah. But what most people don't tell you, the zip line is actually more like a ropes course. So there's some zip lines, but there's other things. There's tightrope, walking across like the jungle, real cool. And now you're getting a little glimpse into Suzanne's head. And one of them is Jacob's ladder. And what's really cool about Jacob's ladder, when you're about to go on it and cross over all these trees, the guy tells you, just lean in and keep moving. I want you guys to get this. Just lean in and keep moving. Don't stop. Don't look down. lean in and keep moving. And for me, it's such a great metaphor. And that's why I chose this particular course for what we do in business. So this is what happens. And this is how people do it. So they start going. And then for some reason, they realize where they are. And they go like this and they stop.
That would be me.
And then what happens is the fear grips them and they stop. And now the guide says, oh, dang. Because now you got to create that momentum to lean forward. And it is so hard to create that momentum. And so you watch people as they get frozen by unknowns. I don't understand. What am I doing here? There's no one out here with me, that they freeze. And then they got to get going. Those people who just follow the instructions, look where they're going, and really get this, like, look where they're going, focus on their vision, focus on the target, which is the platform in front of them, and just keep going.
Yeah.
They cross with ease.
Yeah.
And isn't that what we do?
Yeah. And I remember being on that zip line and doing that exercise. And yeah, I was that person who got to the middle of it and looked down and stood straight up, fear, and realized that I was stuck. And the analogy, and to actually experience it, was so great because, you know, it gave me the opportunity to see like really what it's like. So you have to, you know, first go into the mindset and get over the fear and, you know, encourage yourself to keep moving, take the next step. It's so much harder. But I remember when I took the next step, I was like, oh, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to stop again. And I was able to zip across with no problem. So it's so true that, you know, oftentimes in business, that's what we do. We stop, we start, we stop, we start, we stop, we start. And then we wonder why we're not picking up any momentum, or we wonder, you know, why we're not where we desire, you know, to be. Another thing, Suzanne, that's coming up for me as I take a look at my journey is how do we redefine failure? So being on this whole entrepreneurial journey has allowed me to really take a look at all of the things that I've been taught, you know, as a kid growing up, the perfection and never failing. You know, when you go through school, you can bring home less than A's, because my dad was an educator. So, you know, you may have gotten away with a B, right? But no one really teaches you how to handle failure. And so it's one of the things that I've learned on the journey is to not look at it per se as failure, as if I failed, but what is the challenge, or what's the opportunity for me to learn how to do something new, or to do something better, or maybe even in a different way that I've been doing it. So I think that also is key, how we, you know, redefine our challenges and redefine our roadblocks on the journey.
You know, that is so key, because I know for myself, one of the, particularly when you have little to no support when you get started, and many of us, you know, have that, failing takes on a whole other thing. It becomes an entity onto itself, because I think what ends up happening is you think you've got to get it right, you've got to get it perfect, because we're in proving mode. And I don't know if anybody else is a prover out here, but I'm like, you tell me no, I'm going to prove you wrong. That comes with a lot of pressure, and it comes with a lot of you stay small in terms of what you're willing to try. And I know for myself, one of the pieces I really had to get clear on was that whole redefining of failure and looking at it as an opportunity to pick something new up. So most people have heard me say that when you fall down, pick something up on your way back up. And so for me, it was when I shifted and I said, you know, non-action is actually failure.
I love that.
Because there's no opportunity for me to pick anything up by my misstep. right? By my wrong step, by going in the wrong direction, by messing it up. Action, however, always reveals my next step because
Yeah.
I get the data
Yeah.
from
Mm-hmm.
doing it right, keep going that way, or the data from doing it wrong, course correct and move in a different direction. I realize that that's not available to me
Yeah.
when I'm sitting in fear and perfection and unable to move. So for me, part of it was that when I redefined it in my mind, I could better deal
Yeah.
with my environment. And then my environment became less important
Yeah.
because I knew what I was up to, and I knew that I was required to be in action in order to get good. So I have just a little example of that. When I used to first do my sales calls, I do them, and my youngest would sit at the desk beside me and do his homework.
Uh-huh.
And so we both had homework time. I
Okay.
would be on the phone, and he would do his homework. And I sometimes I'd do a call, and he'd go, "Oh, that was not good at all." And then I do another one. He go, "Oh, that was sweet. That was," and what it reminded me of, and he did it with such playfulness
Mm-hmm.
and such lightness, and it was like a game to him that it actually got me out of my own head, because here was this kid a running commentary on my sales calls and no weight to it. And so it really became evident to me that, you know what? Just do the call, take the information, do the next call, take the information, do the next call. And by listening to him, okay, well, keep that, discard that, don't do that, do this. But that's how we learn, right? So that is the piece.
Yeah, it's so key. And I'm sitting here, you just have me just recalling so many things. And this is why it's so good to be able to, once you step on to the journey, to be able to redefine your circle and key. So one of my mentors, and I smile about this all the time. So one of my mentors, I actually figured out secret to success for this particular mentor, and I guess it's the same for most of them because they really get it. You have to be able to try so many things and be okay with failure. And it almost seems as if, like, every day when we walked into the team, this particular mentor had like 100 ideas.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it, try to execute on all 100. But the thing about it that I got, the one idea that worked made you forget about the 99 that didn't work.
The other part that goes with that is not only does the one that worked was probably pieces of the lessons that didn't work. Because I know that's for me. Take a piece of this, try again, take a piece of this. And then this one thing, it looks like it just came like this. Yeah. No, it's a culmination of a whole bunch that didn't work.
Yeah. And to keep going, and the ability to just not be stopped by the fear, not to get caught in what are people going to say, what are people thinking, but just keep moving. And like I said, it's redefining failure. Like, how do you look at it? Do you look at it as if you fail, or you know what, there's something that I need to go back here and learn and correct and allow me to move on?
I see Peggy, and she's saying, this is so powerful. I'm so in need of this right now. Thank you, ladies. You are welcome, Miss Peggy. Wonderful to see you. I like that, she says. I wanna ask, focus on our last question for the day, and it's, how do you influence people so that they begin to see what you see? Now, this is the money question for anyone on an influencer's journey. And so you started a business, you have an idea, it's yours, it's birthed in your head, you're in action. You might be surrounded by naysayers. The question then becomes, how do you begin to influence people so that they begin to see what you see? I know for me, one of the people I worked with, and we've had her as a guest before, is the beautiful Nikki Kehoho.
Mm.
And what Nikki Kehoe was really good at was this whole concept of casting a vision.
Yeah.
The other person I worked with was a gentleman by the name of Delzino, top influencer in the network marketing industry, massive team. And what he said to me about, having an idea, he says everything is an idea.
Yeah.
Everything's an idea. And whenever I think of this, I think of the Martin Luther speech. I have a dream.
Yeah.
I have a dream. I have a dream. But when you listen to his speech, he goes, I have a dream. Then he goes into vision.
Yeah.
And so what Delzino taught me was, he says, the first thing you need to be able to say is the I have a dream speech, but your version of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that I get to the top of the mountain, and on the other side is everything we desire. Yeah. On the other side is an opportunity for us to have freedom. On the other side of that mountain is the capacity to live 6 months in one place and 6 months in the other. On the other side of this vision is opportunities that are only available to those of us that are willing to climb the mountain. On the other side of this mountain is time freedom. On the other side of this mountain is this thing. And for those who are willing to walk with me, we're going to get to the other side, because I know I'm going to the other side. One of the things that he said, so I'm just casting a vision. Right. And one of the things he said is, the first thing is that you have to believe so you become believable. Yeah. Isn't that a powerful statement? Yeah. It's the first step. It's not the only step, but it's the first step. I have to believe and then become believable. This is what I want people to get in terms of the distinction. I'm not talking about my product or service. Remember, casting my vision has nothing to do with my product or service. My product or service is the vehicle to get up the mountains. Where I'm going and taking people is the so-called promised land. Yeah. That is the first step that we all must be really clear on as influencers. Your vehicle is not the thing that people are interested in. That's the how. Right. And that's the what. They're interested in where are we going? And why are we going there? Yeah. Yeah. That for me was the first step.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm just going to go ahead and tag along to it, because what you're talking about is being able to cast a vision. So the question becomes, how many people are casting the vision, but they're casting the vision in silence? And so when I say casting the vision in silence, you're only casting the vision to yourself in your head. Nobody else knows about the vision. So this is why it's so important. And when we take a look at the landscape of marketing and social media, I love it, because these are the places where you're able to really live out your vision and put it out there, so the people who have the opportunity to enroll, they're able to see it. So many times, I can't tell you, Suzanne, so many times I have conversations with people, and they really do have great ideas. And when you say, well, why aren't you talking about that? Or why aren't you sharing that? They go, oh, no. I'm not going to share. I'm not going to share it. I'm not going to say anything about it, because I don't want anyone, to say anything to me about it. Right. But how are people supposed to know? How are they supposed to know? You have to be able to share, and put your vision out there. And like I said, there's so many opportunities for us to do that through our marketing. As a matter of fact, just before we got on this morning, I was listening to a podcast by Russell Brunson, and he said it's so funny that you said what you said, because he said the same exact thing. A lot of times we get caught up in the selling of the products and the services, but that's not what people want. People want to know, like, what's the vision? So even as you position the product and service, what is it the products and service will be able or allow others to do? Are you talking about that? And that's the secret sauce. That's the thing that we have to put out there. Now, I'm also going to say a second thing for me. One of the things that keeps me in action and allowing people to see, me moving through the journey is being able to touch my vision every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember sitting down with you and doing, our vision exercise. And I remember going through that exercise. It was so unlike any other vision exercise that
Mm-hmm.
done, to be able to sit and envision, imagine, not just think, but can you smell it? Can you feel it? Can you get so intricate in your details,
Yeah.
in your vision, that when you are doing the things that allow you to move one step closer to the vision, that you actually recognize that you are on course. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was in Canada with you, and I had the opportunity to go to our dear friend's Yetta's house, and I was outside in Yetta's backyard picking tomatoes. I know you guys thought I was crazy, but I was just like, oh my gosh, this is it. I am touching my vision, because I actually wrote it down that I want to have a garden.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you experience things like that, it should allow you, to be excited. And I remember sharing, that was my opportunity to share my vision with Yetta and Ken. I don't think, I've ever had the opportunity to per se share with them, but that's what that did, for me that day. So it's, how are we living it every day? How are we touching it? How is it part of our conversation and a part of our being?
That is so true and so real. And so the other part that really wanting people to take away is people believe what we do, not just what we say.
Mhm. Yeah.
And when you are believable, it's when your vision, the words that come out of your mouth, your vision casting lines up with your behaviors. One
Mhm.
of my thing was I kept telling people I was going to be an international speaker and I was going to make money um, in beautiful spaces and places. And
Mhm.
I was going to vacation every time I went somewhere. I'd be like on a permanent vacation. That was my plan. And until COVID hit, my neighbors were accustomed to me rarely ever being home.
Right.
So I was gone 4 to 6 months out of the year.
Mhm.
And when I would, I would post on social media these different places. And I remember when I posted in the first year of social media, I posted a picture of somewhere I'd been in the past, and someone texted, responded to my post, and they said, "Suzanne, where are you?" And I was thinking, "Well, I'm home." And they said, "It's really not safe for you to be running around the world at this time during these times."
I'm
And
just reminiscing.
what was so cool was I had been so believable
Mhm.
in my vision that
Yeah.
when I was sitting still, my vision was still working for me.
Yes. I
And
love
even
it.
today, as I post, I get people who are always asking me, "Where are you? Where
Yeah.
are you? Where are you?" Because that was part of what I wanted to
Right.
become. And so if you're in health, your vision needs to have you living that out loud.
Mhm.
If you're saying that you're a speaker, your vision has to have you living that out loud. If you are a trainer, living it out loud. How do people see what you want? That's the first step. The other thing is, how do you give them evidence of where you're going? Because a vision is bigger than you. It's not where you are now. It's looking into the future and say, I am going here. And it is big, bold, and beautiful. And are you coming with me? And that's when people start hooking their
Yeah.
cart to your wagon.
Mhm. Exactly. Awesome. So yeah, so let's take a minute and see who's out there with us this morning. So I see that Cindy is out there this morning. Great morning, Cindy. Thank you so much for joining us. Charette is out there. And Charette said your half and half became real. And
Mhm.
I just have to say, Charette is one of, my dear friends that share vision all the time. And one of the things that I love is when I first met Charette and we started to get into these conversations, we realized that we also, too, had the same alignment in the vision. Now, what was pretty cool about this, the more I shared my, vision of the half and half, Sherette, she started to get excited and she said, well, you know what? This is what I'm thinking about doing, as well, and thinking about her vision. And now when we sit back and we have our conversations, we're like, girl, can you imagine? Can you believe it? We are actually doing it. We started off years ago with, just the idea. Fast forward until today, today, and then we're walking in it. So kudos to you out there. I'm shouting you out this morning publicly, Sherette. Thank you for that, because she's been an amazing support for me.
Absolutely.
And then I think I see Barbara out there this morning. Great morning, Barbara. Thank you so much for joining us. And she reiterates the fact that you have to believe in order to become believable. So thank you for that, Barbara.
Yeah. And when I talk about the two people that walked with me, even when Cindy's out there, and I always joke, I joke that if I told Cindy that I was going to spin on my head for a career, she'd go, well, I don't get it, but I'm with you, girl.
Yeah.
Right. And there are a few people like that. So, Cindy and I have journeyed for a very long time together. And everybody wants someone in their corner who's just like, I got you. Right. And when you were talking, one of the things that brought to mind is we connected on the half and half. Because when we first met, that was my thing. And I remember I told you, my goal is to live in Canada in the summer and spend my winter where boots are a fashion statement, not a necessity. and it's, and I had just bought a property in a different country where it was always warm, and you were like, whoa. And it's connection.